They was on that man's heels. Do you hear me? He could have killed my fucking baby. Fucked up. Take the jury out. Yeah. He didn't give a damn. I'm thinking about my kids. I could have never done that to him. I have never disrespected his house. Ever.
I need to tell you.
Hello, and welcome back to my channel where we are all crime all black all the time.
What's up, guys? We are back. This is just a documentary video of the trial that I am covering this week. So the trial I'm covering this week is going to be the state of Mississippi versus William Polo Edwards. This is actually the second trial for Mr. Edwards. His first trial was last year. Hung jury, they couldn't come to a conclusion. I ain't gonna lie, I wish I could have watched that first trial. The first trial, like, it was lit. It had everything from mistrials to outbursts. They wanted to recuse the judge, like all kind of stuff. But anyway, this is the second trial for him. He is accused of unaliving a man that was visiting his ex-girlfriend, and it's been said that he cannot get over his ex-girlfriend. But he was one of those people that were very, very, very outspoken. He caused a lot of problems. So you got some people who believe that this is just him, who he is. He's getting his karma. There's some people who believe, the police have the wrong person. So this is the documentary, just kind of getting the backstory on what happened. This comes from the Just Thought Lounge YouTube channel. The guy's name over there is Kevin. He is really, 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 really dope. I'm going to leave a link to his channel in the description box. Go over to his channel, subscribe, like, watch a few videos while you're over there. But he is very, very, very dope. You're not going to be disappointed. He tells stories like you wouldn't believe. The Just Thought Lounge on YouTube. Link will be in the description box. You should probably watch this video before you watch the trial. But either way it go, watch this. You'll be caught up to date on what's going on. And always rest in peace to the victim, and love and prayers and condolences to his family.
Outspoken and opinionated local radio host William the Cipher Edwards made a name for himself in Jackson, Mississippi. He was a self-styled community activist, political commentator, anti-corruption crusader, and perhaps above all, defender of the First Amendment right to free speech. Throughout the years, he inserted himself into local controversies and occasionally was the source of them. He took on the authorities and, for the most part, he won. So when this local personality was faced with the most egregious allegation of them all, that he had committed murder, would he again escape the consequences? Had the infamous radio host actually gunned down a true local hero? Hi there, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. This case is full of interesting individuals and truly bizarre behavior. With the exception of the victim of this murder, it seems that no one in the story is who they appear. The case ends in a twist, and there are certainly a few highs and lows in between. Let's take a look. Jackson, Mississippi is the capital and most populous city in the state. Situated on the Pearl River, the city has beautiful open green spaces and a rich history. It has long been the center of political, economic, and social activity in Mississippi. In recent years, the political scene in Jackson has seen its share of controversy. Meetings of Hinds County officials descending into shouting matches, the forced removal of a county supervisor, and arrests. Topics as seemingly benign as the naming of a local train station or the efficiency of garbage collection turned into explosive encounters with displays of harsh language, destruction of property, and even threats of violence.
Well, what you're hearing there is Napoleon Edwards, aka the Cipher voice, telling Banks he will bust him in the face. Banks walked away from the confrontation. The incident happened yesterday during a special city council meeting to talk about the city's garbage collection concerns.
Inserting himself into the center of this chaos was one man, an outspoken and passionate radio host who goes by many names, William Irvin Edwards. On Facebook, he is known as Napoleon. On his radio broadcast, the cipher voice, he's called the Cipher. To his friends and locals, he is just Polo. And to his many enemies, William has been called the Gut Bucket. In this heated and explosive political environment, William Polo Edwards built a name for himself as a self-proclaimed community activist fighting crime and corruption in Jackson. To that end, he formed what he called a liberal action committee called the Cipher. His content was often a mixture of personal opinion and information from ostensibly knowledgeable sources. He built a following of thousands across social media.
Follow on all social media. Let's make a difference together.
Man, welcome to another edition of the Cipher Voice, the most thought-provoking show on the web. Hey man, you are locked into the Cipher Voice right here from the We Believe Digital Podcast Studio in Jackson, Mississippi. We're broadcasting to you live tonight in 149 countries as well as Roku TV.
Polo spoke out frequently about the issues facing Jackson and the need to make positive change in the community. Murder rates were of particular concern. He pointed to the root causes of the violence, which he believed began in the home and the family unit.
We can't continue to go this way. We can't continue to allow Jackson, Mississippi to be at a higher rate per murder capital than Chicago. We don't have black fathers. We don't have strong black male figures. We don't have a moral code or a moral map. So we really have some work to do. And we really have some deep discussions that we have to have. People, we gotta come together. We gotta get down to the nitty gritty and we gotta implement real change. Time is running out just like it is on this show tonight. Tonight's show.
For regular listeners of the Cipher who shared Polo's passionate concerns over growing violence and homicide rates in the community, the idea that the radio host himself would later be accused of murder was unimaginable. For others, however, the allegation was not only believable, but a natural progression of Polo's already volatile behavior. Despite the moral flair of his commentary, the Cipher had been accused of inciting or threatening violence more than once before, and he never seemed to suffer any real consequences. In November 2016, the radio host took aim at Roderick Richardson, a local pastor. The two disagreed over the best candidate in the upcoming mayoral race. Polo posted a series of videos where he claimed to have information from two of the pastor's church members. He accused Pastor Richardson of being intimate with a member of his church, whom he referred to on his show as a little girl. While Polo maintained that he had verifiable sources for the information, he was nonetheless charged with a felony for slander against the pastor with the intent to cause him injury. A jury found him guilty of the charge, and Polo was sentenced to 5 years in prison.
He said that we were stealing money. He said that I was messing with little girls and all of these other types of allegations, which of course were unsubstantiated.
However, in a development that would become a pattern for the radio host, the verdict was overturned upon appeal, and Polo would face no consequences for his very serious, unproven allegations against the pastor. The court found that Polo's First Amendment rights to free speech had been violated. Polo Edwards had been vindicated, and according to Pastor Richardson, emboldened.
Well, what it did is it empowered him because he presented it in a way as if he fought it and won, but it was a simple mistake made by the district attorneys at the time. It gave him a sense of being untouchable.
Perhaps the most notable and outrageous of Polo's feuds was with the Hinds County Supervisor for the 2nd District, David Archie. Criticism of Archie was a favorite topic on the Cipher Voice, and the supervisor offered plenty of ammunition to work with, from outbursts at meetings to accusations of election fraud.
That's this morning. The meeting ended quickly today after the president and two other supervisors walked out following several loud outbursts from that man, Supervisor David Archie.
Archie was handcuffed and escorted out, but interim sheriff Marshawn Chrysler decided not to book him. He will be charged with 5 misdemeanors: disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, preventing the people's business from being conducted, destruction of county public property, and resisting arrest.
I did not break any laws. He instructed the sheriff to place me under arrest. They want to say that I resist. I didn't resist. I was bracing myself so I don't get hurt.
Last week, David had a tantrum, beating the gavel, acted a fool. And I've asked David twice to come on this show. I've asked David Lee, matter of fact, I'll come to you, Mr. Supervisor. You know, you go everywhere else, but let's sit down and have a real conversation. All right, let me sit down and interview you, Mr. Archie. And he has declined. And in the next upcoming election, the citizens of Hinds County are going to take care of the business of the citizens. They go vote out David L. Archie, they go vote out Robert Graham, and they go vote out Creedell Calhoun.
The Cipher's dispute with David Archie, just like with Pastor Richardson, eventually led to the radio host's arrest. This time for cyberstalking, a charge that applies when physical threats are made online. The accusation rested on a single statement from the Cipher voice in August 2020, when the host referred to 3 supervisors he often targeted: Archie, Graham, and Calhoun. He said, "I'm going to shoot that .50 caliber out at all 3 of them. I'm going to line those sons of guns up and execute them." Then he continued, "With information, news that you can use." Along with this alleged physical threat, Polo presented a series of documents to his audience, court records that purported to show that Supervisor Archie was a felon. The papers listed a sexual battery charge against a David Archie, followed by a guilty plea.
In 2004, 2007, he got a charge of sexual battery. Wow. He got a charge of sexual battery and got indicted on it. Entered the plea of guilty. What kind of strings he put? Pled guilty, 10 years MDOC, suspended 5 years probation, no victim contact. That's your supervisor, David Archie. Yeah, that's him.
Supervisor Archie, infuriated over the accusation, allegedly placed a phone call directly to Police Chief James Davis and the District Attorney's Office and arranged to have U.S. Marshals arrest William Polo Edwards.
That my life was threatened by an individual of this city. He threatened to execute me along with others. The person's name is William Edwards. And at that point, I immediately picked up the phone to call the chief of police, to call the sheriff, as well as the district attorney. And I thank all of them for being involved in this matter.
Archie was questioned by reporters over the allegation that he was a convicted felon. He was adamant that these statements were false. When WLBT photojournalist Carlos Sanders asked him what information was true, it set off a firestorm of anger from Archie. The interaction went off the rails at that point.
There are some information that he stated about me that were true.
What is that?
I don't have a problem with. I want you to find that information. I want you. All I'm saying is that I want you to do the same that the citizens have done. I mean, I've just told you that I've not been
convicted.
charged.
I asked, have you ever been charged? You said you're not a convicted felon, and you used the word convicted several times. So I asked, just to clarify, have you been charged? Now, my colleague here just asked, are there other things that's been put out?
I'm going to tell you again.
Tell us again.
Since you want to act like you want to harass me.
I'm not trying to harass you. I am the media. I'm here to get information.
Charged with a felony.
Correct.
The answer is no, 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 no. You got it?
Okay. Thank you.
Now, with
Well, I guess all I would ask, sir, I understand you told us to go find it, but you're here right now. Can you just tell us?
I'm going to tell you again, and I don't want you to ask me that anymore.
Okay.
I want you to do your job.
Always.
And provide that information to the public.
David Archie had been arrested in Georgia and charged with sexual battery in 1996. The case was later dropped. In Mississippi, he had been picked up on a domestic violence charge against his wife 4 years earlier in 2016. Again, he was never convicted. The JPD had only misdemeanors on his record. The documents presented by Polo Edwards detailed the criminal history of a different David Archie, a fact easily verified by the date of birth provided, which showed the perpetrator was born in 1985, over 20 years after the supervisor. Polo had either failed to verify these documents or had chosen to ignore this information.
This is about the fact that this platform has been built on truth. Not one time have we talked about something, exposed someone, pulled the covers back off of anybody, that it was not the truth. When we put misinformation out, there is somebody that's all they thrive on, is misinformation. And we got to be careful because that's what's happening in our community right now. We got a lot of people that have misinformation. And I'd rather you have no information than misinformation. All right?
The circumstances of Polo's arrest for allegedly threatening the life of David Archie were controversial. At a press conference following his release, his lawyer emphasized that threatening execution by information was not a crime.
Pulled up at my place of employment, which is WPBQ on I-55 Front Road about 7:35 when I pulled up and exited.
AM or PM?
PM. When I got ready to exit the vehicle, several SUVs blocked me in and got out with weapons drawn. They were all U.S. Marshals. They told me to put my hands up in the air. I complied and handed him both of my cell phones. He searched my vehicle, didn't find anything. I asked him what I was being arrested for. He said for cyber stalking. I said, cyber stalking? Are you serious? I said, well, why is the U.S. Marshal here? He says, we received this from James Davis.
Mr. Williams actually said that he believed he would have them lined up as a firing squad and throw information at them that he has gathered. Information, not bullets, not daggers, not stakes, not knives, nothing that could physically hurt or harm a person's body, but information. If you don't like what Mr. Williams said, I suggest you don't shake his tree and eat his peaches. Amen. Turn the station and try another station. Amen.
I'm gonna shoot that 50 caliber at all three of them. I'm gonna line them sun guns up and I'm gonna execute all three of them with information, news that you can use.
Polo Edwards and his wife Doris proceeded to file a lawsuit against the city of Jackson, as well as its mayor, Police Chief Davis, County Supervisor Archie, and other named city officials. Some of the claims included were malicious prosecution, illegal use of taxpayer funds for personal gain by state actors, and conspiracy to commit false arrest and abuse of power. To his supporters, Napoleon Edwards was continuing the fight for transparency and exercising his First Amendment rights to freedom of speech.
My concern is that the cipher, who is my brother, William to me, undoubtedly has said some unfavorable things regarding maybe some city officials that for some might be unfavorable. But with his constitutional right and freedom of speech, my concern is that I don't want any harm to come his way.
To Polo's detractors, he was nothing more than a bully, one who had weaponized social media. And his repeated success at evading legal repercussions had only strengthened his false sense of invincibility. The cipher could get away with saying or doing anything. At 5:15 p.m. on May 1st, 2022, officers from the city of Clinton, which neighbors Jackson, were called out to a shooting that occurred at a home on Hannah Drive. When they arrived, they found the victim just inside the doorway to the house. He had suffered 9 gunshot wounds and was declared dead at the scene. The victim was 45-year-old Robert Bobby Davis. Bobby had been visiting the home of a friend, Shadow Robinson. He had allegedly answered the door and encountered a gunman on the other side, who shot him dead. Shadow placed the call to 911. She told the 911 operator, as well as the responding officers, that she knew exactly who the killer was. William Polo Edwards. Robert Davis was the founder of the b.m.s Society, an organization that mentored young men and aimed to steer them in the right direction. Just like his accused killer, Bobby had been a Jackson-based anti-violence advocate. He was a widely beloved philanthropist and crusader against crime. Not only that, his sister recounted how Bobby had literally saved people from burning houses and cars. He volunteered for reading programs in local schools, helped to feed the homeless, assisted with hurricane relief efforts, and cleaned up the city. Only a week before his death, Bobby and his organization joined Chief James Davis, no relation to Bobby, in Jackson for a march against crime.
I tell mothers all the time, if you give me your young men, I'm going to give you some success back. These young men, they seem to know where the drug dealers are because the drug dealers are in their faces. The guys with the guns are in their faces. Like they see these guys on a day-to-day basis. So in the b.m.s Society, we try to make ourselves just as visible.
Feeding the homeless, visiting the sick, and cleaning up abandoned buildings are just a few activities they take part in.
We go into the schools and read to the kids. We provide security for mom and pop stores. And for small churches who can't afford security, we help guys get their GEDs and provide jobs for young men. And we do basically anything positive that we can get our hands on.
Bobby had been motivated by his own missteps earlier in his life. Born and raised in a neighborhood called Verdon Addition, he grew up with exposure to drugs, gangs, and violence. At the tender age of 11, he too joined a gang. Of that period of his life, Bobby later reflected that not having a positive male role model had canceled out his chances of escaping the situation. He loved and listened to his mother, he said, but as a kid, he admired the streets. As an adult, Bobby's efforts to be the positive role model that he wished he had had motivated his every move. On the day he died, he had been at church. From there, he delivered food and supplies to a family in need before visiting Shadow Robinson on Hannah Drive. Shadow was a single mother who ran a successful real estate business. She worked closely with contractors to fix up properties to sell and had met Bobby in this capacity. Shadow told police that she was not romantically involved with Bobby, though she believed that is how he wanted their relationship to develop. She had been romantically involved, however, with Polo Edwards. Indeed, she had recently ended her relationship with him. According to Shadow, Polo had not taken the breakup well. He had become obsessive and jealous. That day, Shadow was behind on work and accepted Bobby's offer to make food for the children. Around 3 p.m., the community leader arrived at her house with groceries and began cooking. 2 hours later, from the back of the house, Shadow heard gunshots. When she reached the front hallway, Polo, she said, was standing over Bobby. He placed a handgun in the waistband of his pants and ran to his truck before driving off.
We do believe that this was not a random event. Whether or not Mr. Bobby himself was targeted, we don't know, but this was not random. I guess you could call it domestic in some sense of the word.
Law enforcement in Clinton were in contact with Polo in the hours following the shooting. The lead detective assigned to the case, hearing Polo's name had been referenced in the 911 call, reportedly thought that the radio host may have been the victim. So the detective called Polo's cell phone to see if he could reach him. Polo picked up. They spoke over the phone a handful of times, arranging for the radio host to turn himself in, which he eventually did. although Polo delayed for days while making these arrangements. He would not go into the station until his attorney was available, he said. During this time, he took an unexplained road trip north and then south to New Orleans, where he was finally arrested. In custody, William pled his innocence.
You don't have anything to say about? Did you kill him? Did you kill Robert Davis?
No, I did not. When my dad called.
We're not entirely surprised at what he did. He just fulfilled the things that he said on his Facebook Live.
William Edwards, the cipher, whatever you want to call him. I call him the devil because I knew that he came to kill, steal, and destroy. And he destroyed himself with the effort of trying to destroy others.
Forensic analysis of the scene did not help to clarify what had transpired. Investigators found 6 spent shell casings on the ground and identified 2 different brands of ammunition. 2 of the bullets that killed Bobby were determined to be from the same 9mm firearm. However, analysis of the other 7 returned inconclusive results. A search of Shadow's home took place on May 4th, 3 days following the shooting. Shadow told police that there were no guns in the house. Indeed, with her criminal history, she was banned from owning one. Police nonetheless located 9mm ammunition inside. They found it did not match the bullets that killed Bobby. Polo's home in Jackson was also searched by Clinton police. A 9mm gun case was found with 4 live rounds inside, but no gun. The pickup truck that he had been driving, a black Ford F-450, was owned by a friend. It was also searched. This search also occurred days later, following Polo's unexplained road trip to Louisiana. The truck's owner told investigators that Polo had driven it for the previous 6 months. Inside the truck, police found more 9mm rounds. The murder weapon was never located. There was no other physical evidence linking William Edwards to the crime scene. When the case went to trial in the summer of 2023, the defense argued that William, Napoleon, Polo, the cipher, Edwards, was being made the fall guy. The entire case rested on the testimony of a single witness, Shadow Robinson. The defense team pointed the finger at her.
What the evidence is going to show is that the only witness, and I mean the only witness, that says William Edwards shot and killed Bobby Davis is Shadow Robinson. The only witness that says William Edwards was at Shadow Robinson's home the afternoon around 5 o'clock of May 1st, 2022 is Shadow Robinson.
The state's case may have been dependent upon a single eyewitness, but there was corroborating evidence. Polo maintained that he had been at home in Jackson that entire night. However, analysis based on cell tower signals placed Polo's cell phone leaving his home in Jackson just past 5 p.m. on the day of the murder. Connections to local towers showed the device traveling towards Clinton. The last location captured before the shooting occurred was 4 minutes prior. It placed Polo's phone only 4 blocks away from Shadow Robinson's house. The connection picked up again minutes following the murder. Polo's cell phone was tracked leaving the area, corresponding to an image captured from the Fun Time Skateland and Childcare on Highway 80 at 5:13 p.m., 1 minute following Shadow's 911 call. The image captured a black Ford F-450 pickup truck matching the one that Polo had been driving. One additional witness from the neighborhood, Wayne Derrick, told the jury that he was working on his computer when he heard gunshots. Derrick said that he saw a black pickup truck driving away from the scene. The cell phone data was not exactly a smoking gun. It was extremely unlikely that Polo's cell phone would have connected to a tower covering Clinton while he was still at home in Jackson, but that did not prove that he committed murder. Defense counsel grilled investigators as to why Shadow Robinson had not been considered a suspect, given that she was the only other adult known to be in the house at the time of the murder.
Identified by whom?
He was identified by an eyewitness.
Who?
Being Shadow Robinson.
Okay. Who else?
She was the only one on scene to my knowledge.
Right. What else made him a suspect? Right?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative. On the vocal room, you may.
What else made him the suspect? Lights in.
Yes, sir. So the 911 call, she said him by name. She
That's her. Say if he's the one that did it.
On a recorded 911 line, yes, sir. She said him by name that he did it.
Is it more truthful because it's on a recorded 911 line than it's face to face?
Well, with all due respect, you asked me how I found that out.
You became the suspect. What did you have?
We had a recorded 911 call stating him by name, and we also had an eyewitness of Shadow Robinson who told the responding officers.
Same person.
Same person, yes.
You really didn't have two different identifications of them. What you had was one person twice saying, he did it.
Well, if you would continue, she did provide a vehicle description, and a neighbor also provided a vehicle description as well.
So she's the key here. She's the one that said he did it.
That's correct.
Right. And that's why he gets investigated. Did anyone investigate her?
Mr. Ford, that's a very good question. In fairness to the trial and the case, we investigated everybody.
Shadow's testimony took place over 2 days. Her correspondence with Polo through text messages were read aloud, presenting the story of their rocky romantic relationship. Shadow told the jury that Polo had tried connecting with her through social media for 3 years before she responded. He made grand romantic gestures after that in an attempt to win her over. Over time, they developed a physical relationship, though from her perspective, it had never been serious.
Just anything that I do, we can post and like and love and comment and message.
Did you respond to those messages?
Not for 3 years, no. But he told me that his wife had filed for divorce when he was incarcerated. Before he got home, they served him and he signed and what. So he lied about that initially.
By the spring of 2022, the relationship was on the rocks. Shadow had broken things off. But Polo, she said, was not letting go. He arrived unannounced at her home with treats for her children, knowing that she would not force him out or cause a scene in front of them. He was also stalking her. Messages from her phone to his showed instances of her telling him to stop following her. He sent a series of texts proclaiming his love for her. He also expressed his jealousy and insecurities over her time spent with other men. When questioned at the scene, Shadow had told detectives that Polo had no beef with Bobby, but she testified at trial that he was indiscriminately jealous of all men in her life, Bobby Davis included. The night before the shooting, Polo had sent a handful of messages that went unanswered by Shadow. He sent her a photo of the two of them together, taken months earlier. In the photo, she was sleeping. She had been unaware he had taken it. One of his final messages warned her that she would come to regret rejecting him. "You're going to wish you played this game on someone else," he wrote. On the afternoon of May 1st, Shadow testified that she was in her bedroom getting some work done when she saw Polo pull up to her house in the black pickup truck. Bobby was in her kitchen.
I went to the kitchen first. I said, Robert, the kitchen is right outside my bedroom. So I went in the kitchen. I said to Robert, he was on the facing this side of the counter making cornbread. And I said, Robert, why is Polo pulling up in my driveway? And he said, huh? And he looked out the window and he saw it verified, okay, well, he's in the street coming up the driveway. And he said, don't worry about it, I handle it.
Did he eventually go to the door?
Apparently.
And describe for us what you saw or what you heard you saw.
Well, when I stepped down and I heard just pop, 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 just over and over nonstop. And I just started, I grabbed my ears and I started yelling. I was hollering like, Robert, wait. Because I thought my mind went into, he was moving around in my pantry. I didn't know, that was odd. When you think hindsight, that was odd. So I'm thinking, when he was bringing the grocery in, he made a few trips. So I'm thinking maybe brought a gun in. Maybe he had a gun. Maybe it was him doing the shooting. I didn't think that it would be. I never thought I would see what I saw when I hit the hallway.
So you thought maybe it was him. Did he actually have a firearm that day?
Who?
Robert?
No.
So what did you see when you came back around?
I saw Robert face down. Face down. In the end of the hallway, like the tip of the door. He was face down. I saw Polo, Miss Evers, standing over him basically. And I saw him with the gun. And he put a gun in his waist.
That was what I was going to ask. What did he do with the gun?
Put it in his waist.
Emotions began running high when Shadow explained her response to finding Bobby on the floor. Her children had been inside the house at the time of the shooting.
I had to secure my babies.
Your children, they were at the home at the time?
Yeah, Spirit loves that man. Anywhere, any move he made, he knew that. That baby was on that man's heels. So you hear me? He could have killed my fucking baby. That's fucked up. Take the jury out. He didn't give a damn. I'm thinking about my kids. Y'all could have never done that to him. I have never disrespected his house. Ever. And he could have killed my baby. Those kids supposed to be alive. And they didn't deserve it.
Following the outburst, the court took a pause from testimony until the following day. The defense's motion for a mistrial based on the witness's behavior was denied. When it came time for cross-examination, defense attorney Tom Fortner did not pull any punches. He questioned if Shadow's version of events even made sense, particularly the assertion that Polo had placed his handgun directly into the waist of his pants after firing at least 9 shots. Would it not have been far too hot to do so? Shadow was also questioned about the results of the police search of her home. In it, they found 9mm ammunition and Bobby Davis's cell phone. It was sitting on a shelf in her closet. She had been in possession of it for days.
But you owned ammunition.
No, I never owned ammunition.
There was ammunition in your house.
I have a house full of children, adult children. I had children there.
So the house full of children, there was, as I recall, in this case, when the police searched your house, they found a 50-round, 9mm round drum clip for a 9mm gun. That was your drum?
No.
Well, which child was it?
My adult son.
And who is your adult son?
Oh, you would know him.
Did you tell the police you didn't know where Robert Davis's cell phone was?
If they didn't ask, I wouldn't respond, so no.
Was Robert Davis's cell phone in your house?
Later on, I found it there.
Later on when?
When me and my attorney came back from giving a statement.
That same day?
The same evening.
Okay, and so did you call the police and tell them, I've got Robert Davis's cell phone, y'all want it?
No, they didn't ask about it. I've been thinking about that, no.
They came back and found that, they searched your house and found that cell phone a couple of days later, didn't they?
They did.
And where was the cell phone when they found it?
In my closet.
This speculation took a backseat to other questions related to Shadow Robinson's credibility. It seems that Bobby Davis was not the first person to have been murdered in Shadow Robinson's home. In 2001, Shadow shot and killed her ex-boyfriend, a man named Linnell Moore, in her apartment.
In 2001, you shot and killed your ex-boyfriend, Linnell Moore, in your apartment, and your children, his 2 children, you and his 2 children were in that apartment at that time. Is that correct?
No. I mean, I shot him, but I didn't kill him there. So no, he didn't die at my apartment, Mr. Fortner. But I did shoot him there.
He died from that gunshot.
He died from the gunshot wound. That is correct. He died from a few other components.
I'm sorry.
He died from a few other components, but yes, initially from the gunshot wound. That's right. Yeah.
He died from you shooting him.
But you can make that assessment. I mean, you can make that assessment.
I can make that assessment?
You can.
Thank you.
The Ridgeland Police Department responded to her home and found her uncooperative, although she admitted to them that she had shot Linnell. She told police that she and her current boyfriend had been in a physical altercation with him for nearly 40 minutes. The struggle had occurred mostly between the two men, but when her ex-boyfriend turned and came at her, the gun went up and he got shot, she told police. Responding officers reported seeing nothing on either person to indicate that either of them had been in any type of physical struggle. There were no signs that a fight of any sort had occurred in the apartment. No furniture was broken and no walls were damaged. A jury convicted Shadow Robinson of manslaughter. Her sentence had been 20 years in prison, though she did not serve the full term.
And you actually went to trial and were found guilty of manslaughter.
I was.
And you went to prison for a while.
Unjustly, I did.
Okay.
Fortner then questioned whether Shadow would consider herself a violent person.
There is nothing violent about you.
That's correct. I'm not a violent person.
You're not a violent person.
No, I'm not.
You don't
Unless you force me to be. No. I protect myself. I believe strong in self-defense.
You don't do acts of violence.
No, I'm not a violent person at all.
Unless you're forced to be violent. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Forced to be violent like you were in 2001.
That is correct. I was 6.5 months pregnant. Don't you ever forget that now.
After 2 days of deliberations, the jury was unable to reach a unanimous decision. Judge Faye Peterson declared a mistrial.
It's important to note that many people on the jury found that William Edwards did commit this murder. It's important to note that the evidence that was introduced at trial was evidence that showed that William Edwards was on the scene at the time of the murder. It's important to note that the bullets found on Mr. Edwards when he was captured were the same caliber bullets found at the crime scene. The same caliber bullets also found at his apartment. It's important to note that the evidence is still overwhelming that Mr. Edwards committed this crime. And most importantly, it's important for the public to know that the Hinds County District Attorney's Office will not stop. We will try this lawsuit again, we will get a conviction, and we will not stop until justice is done.
The second trial was set to begin on July 29, 2024 in Hinds County Circuit Court, though the latest available news reported that defense had filed for a continuance. Polo has also fired his attorney, Tom Fortner. His new counsel has requested that Judge Peterson recuse herself. They argue that live-streamed coverage of the first trial led to memes of the judge's facial expressions and reactions to testimony, which means that she can no longer remain impartial. At the time of publication, a retrial date has not been scheduled.
We can't continue to go this way. We can't continue to allow Jackson, Mississippi to be at a higher rate per murder capital than Chicago. We don't have black fathers. We don't have strong black male figures. We don't have a moral code or a moral map. So we really have some work to do. And we really have some deep discussions that we have to have.
The b.m.s Society has continued in its good work in the spirit of its founder, Robert Davis. The organization has 7 chapters in Mississippi and operates in 13 additional states and 2 countries. The cipher was correct in predicting that Hinds County Supervisor David Archie would lose his next election. Archie fought the loss, however, claiming election fraud, corruption, and what he called a high-tech election heist. He claims to have video evidence of Democratic Executive Committee Chair Jacqueline Amos tampering with ballots and voting machines. As of October 2024, Archie's case challenging the election results continues to work its way through the courts. In early November 2024, the U.S. Justice Department unsealed an indictment charging Hinds County District Attorney Jody Owens, as well as the mayor of Jackson, Chokwe Lumumba, and Jackson City Council member Aaron Banks, with participating in a bribery scheme, earning sums in the 6 figures. The indictment alleges that D.A. Owens facilitated bribe payments from fake real estate developers to public officials in Jackson. To undercover FBI agents posing as developers, Owens bragged about the extent of his power in the city. He said he had a bag of effing information on all the city councilmen he could use to get votes approved. According to the latest records, William Napoleon Polo the Cipher Gut Bucket Edwards is currently being housed at the Tallahatchie County Correctional Facility in Tutwiler, Mississippi. He awaits his second murder trial. That was the strange case of William Edwards, the anti-violence activist who may or may not be a murderer. Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to Sandra West and Sarah Agox for joining the Members Lounge. I'm Kevin, this is Just Thought Lounge, and I'll see you in the next one.